Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Commander's Forge. My name is Andy Bentley, and the Forge is the area for me to talk about Magic, Commander, and anything else while I try and drag this whole mental health thing back to where it's supposed to be. Now, if my voice sounds a little scratchy, it's because of the weather. Uh, it's just been really rainy and annoying. Now, that said, this Friday I went for the Avatar: The Last Airbender pre-release. I played in the Two-Headed Giant with my cousin, and I kind of want to talk about that. So, I really enjoy this set. A big part of that is the new allies that they're introducing, which I'm going to get more into later because I'm going to be updating my 5-color allies list finally for the first time in let's just say it's been years. So the way it works is each pre-release pack is centered around a color, and it gives you a seeded pack for that color, and then from there you get 5 additional play boosters. So my cousin went with the black Azula deck pre-release kit, and I went with the blue Katara one, mostly because I was looking for the 3-color Katara because I want that for my allies list. So the seeded pack comes with one version of them. In my case, I got the uncommon Katara Bending Prodigy, which is 2 and a blue for a 2/3 human warrior ally. At the beginning of your end step, if Katara is tapped, put a +1/+1 counter on her, and she has Water Bend for 6 to draw a card. Well, we were kind of just, going through and opening our stuff. I realized my white and my blue were generally insane for allies. And then I opened a couple of cards that just kind of pushed me into Bant. So my cousin opened the Katara I was looking for, which is Katara the Fearless, which is Bant, so green, white, blue, for a 3/3 human warrior ally, and it says if a triggered ability of an ally you control triggers, that ability triggers an additional time. I was like, okay. But while I was opening my packs, I also opened Aang at the Crossroads, which is also a Bant legendary. So for 2 and green, white, blue, you get a 3/3 human avatar ally with flying. When he enters, you can look at the top 5 cards of your library. You can put a creature card with mana value 4 or less from among them onto the battlefield. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order, and then whenever another creature you control leaves the battlefield, transform Aang at the beginning of the next end step. And he becomes Aang Destined Survivor. He's a 4/4 avatar ally with flying. Land creatures you control have vigilance, and at the beginning of combat on your turn, you earthbend 2. So that right there kind of pushed me towards Bant. But then the other thing that pushed me directly into Bant was we had 2 Earth King's Lieutenants, which are a green and a white for a 1/1 human soldier ally with trample. When it enters, you put a +1/+1 counter on each other ally creature you control, and then whenever another ally you control enters, you put a counter on him. So it's a functional reprint of Thalia's Lieutenant, but for allies. And then from there, I just kind of filled in with, other allies that I had opened. Like, I had an Avatar Enthusiasts, which is 2 and a white for a 2/2 human peasant ally. Whenever another ally you control enters, put a counter on this creature. I had Suki, Courageous Rescuer, which is 1 white white for a 2/4 human warrior ally. Other creatures you control get +1/+0. And whenever another permanent you control leaves the battlefield during your turn, you can create a 1/1 white ally creature token. This ability triggers only once each turn. Ty Lee Chi Blocker was also in my seeded pack. 2 and a blue for a 2/1 human performer ally with flash, prowess, and when she enters, tap up to one target creature doesn't untap during its control's untap step for as long as you control Ty Lee. Then the last two that kind of rounded out like the core ally list, we had Master Piandao, which is 4 and a white for a 4/4 human warrior ally with first strike. Whenever he attacks, you can look at the top 4 cards of your library. You can reveal an ally, equipment, or lesson card from among them, put it into your hand, put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. And finally, I opened Hakoda, Selfless Commander. So 3 and a white for a 3/5 human warrior ally. He has vigilance. You can look at the top card of your library at any time. You can cast ally spells from the top of your library. And you can sacrifice Hakoda to give creatures you control +0/+5 and indestructible till end of turn. So I was on a very aggressive creature deck. Well, my cousin was on more of like a mid-rangey Rakdos deck with, firebending, and like we had 2 of the guys where it had the activated ability to make each opponent lose a life for 3 mana. So he was doing more mid-rangey stuff with like less creatures but more interaction, and I was doing more creature stuff but also had interaction. One of the things that typically we get not necessarily complained about, but we're pretty well known for just having a massive amount of removal in both of our decks. And that's mostly because, well, if they don't have creatures and we can still stick a couple of creatures, eventually we're going to win. So we've also been 2-headed giant partners for, over a decade, and we mesh really well in our deck building. It's how we got better at deck building and subsequently became the number 1 threats in our playgroups. But yeah, that said, we did 4-0 the pre-release, which netted us 5 packs apiece. And then I came home and passed out. And then got up and, let's just say I had a really weird Saturday. But that said, I'm going to take a quick break here. I'm going to come back. I'm going to talk about the cards I want most for the update for my 5-color allies list. So I'll be right back. And welcome back. Now, as I previously stated, I have a 5-color allies list that I've had since, it's 2015. So, a decade at this point. And it kind of got to a point where there just wasn't any other allies to try and work into it, So, anyway, the commander for that deck is General Tazri. So it's 4 and a white for a 3/4 human ally. When it enters the battlefield, you can search your library for an ally creature card, reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle your library. And then for Wooburg, ally creatures you control get +X/+X, where X is the number of colors among those creatures. That said, I already talked about some of the things that were in my deck that are definitely going to make it into this deck. So just to touch on them real quick again, we have Katara the Fearless, Earth King's Lieutenant, Avatar Enthusiasts, Suki Courageous Rescuer, Master Piandao, and Hakoda Selfless Commander. Those were all creatures that I had wanted to pick up for this deck to begin with, and I was just happy to find them. Now, some of the cards that came out of, both my pre-release packs and then my prize packs. I had a Compassionate Healer in my deck from the event. It's 1 and a white for a 2/2 human cleric ally. Whenever this creature becomes tapped, you gain a life and scry 1. Again, just a cheap creature that can trigger other allies, and then accrues value anytime I either A, attack with it or use it for like a water bending thing. It just, yeah. Next up, we have Jet Freedom Fighter. This was originally going to be in my deck, and I needed to make some cuts, and this was 5 mana and kind of above where I wanted my curve to be. But it kind of did what my cousin wanted to do, so where I would have had to cast it off white mana, he was able to cast it off red mana. So it's 2 and then 3 hybrid Boros, so red-white, for a 3/1 human rebel ally. When he enters, he deals damage equal to the number of creatures you control the target creature an opponent controls, and when he dies, you can put a counter on each of up to 2 target creatures. After that, we have the Treetop Freedom Fighters, which is a 2 and a red for a 2/1 human rebel ally with haste. And when it enters, it makes a 1/1 white ally creature token. There are several things that, like, when they enter, make an ally token. And I'm looking at a lot of those because the way the allies that are already in General Tazri work is whenever another ally enters. And so if you can accrue more value by having multiple allies enter in a turn, yeah. In that same vein, that's why I have Sun Warriors here. It's 2, a red and a white for a 3/5 human warrior ally with firebending X, where X is the number of creatures you control, so this produces just a bunch of mana. But he also has a mana sink. For 5 generic mana, you can create a 1/1 white ally creature token. So if I attack with him and I have 5 creatures, I can just make another ally. And then a card I pulled that is not a creature but will definitely be working its way into the deck is the White Lotus Tile. So it's 4 mana for an artifact that enters tapped, but you can tap it to add X mana of any one color where X is the greatest number of creatures you control that have a creature type in common. So this is an artifact version of the Harbaz Druid, which can tap for 1 mana of any color for the number of allies you control. This basically does the same thing. So it's just a backup big ol' mana dork. Now, there are still other cards that I'm looking at that I would like to pick up for this. I do kind of want energy bending for the deck. So it's a 2 mana like colorless spell. It's an instant lesson. Lands you control gain all basic land types till end of turn and draw a card. So allies are in 5 colors. You don't always have access to all 5 colors. Heck, you might not be able to make Wooburg twice, but if you cast this, you could make Wooburg twice to activate Tajri twice, you know? So that's kind of where I am with that. I have the Waterbending Ascension, or Waterbender Ascension, but what I want is the Airbender Ascension for this deck. So for 1 and a white, you get an enchantment. When it enters, you can airbend a creature. That means you exile it, and its controller can cast it for 2 generic mana at a later date. And it says, whenever a creature you control enters, put a quest counter on this enchantment, and then at the beginning of your end step, if this enchantment has 4 or more quest counters on it, exile up to 1 target creature you control, then return to the battlefield under its owner's control. So this gives us more ways to trigger ETBs with allies, essentially. Much like this next card, which is Appa Steadfast Guardian. 2 white for a 3/4 Bison ally with flash, flying, and whenever Appa enters, airbend any number of other target non-land permanents you control, and then whenever you cast this spell from exile, create a 1/1 white ally creature token. So this covers a lot of bases. It's letting us recast other allies to trigger other allies. It's also letting us, make more ally tokens. It's just, things like that. Other things that just, make a token when they enter are things like invasion reinforcements. 1 and a white for a 1/1 human warrior ally with flash. When this creature enters, create a 1/1 white ally creature token. I'm in particular thinking, like, because this has flash, if I have out the, what's his name, Kabira Evangel, he gives our creatures protection from a color whenever an ally enters. And something with flash like this could be used as like a way to protect our team from, targeted things like removal. Kyoshi Warriors are 3 and a white for a 3/3 human warrior ally. When it enters, you make an ally. That also like doubles up with things like Appa. So if we exile them, replay them later, they enter with an ally and give us another ally from Appa's trigger. But moving right along, there are some things that aren't necessarily creatures that I'm looking to put in this deck as well. Things like Ruinous Waterbending is 1 black for a sorcery lesson. As an additional cost to cast a spell, you can waterbend 4. And it says all creatures get -2/-2 until end of turn. If the spell's additional cost is paid whenever a creature dies this turn, you gain 1 life. There are enough ways to grow my creatures out of range of dying to this, and this just decimates, like, tokens, you know what I mean? But moving right along, next up we have Redirect Lightning, which is a single red mana for an instant lesson. As an additional cost to cast the spell, you can either pay 5 life or pay 2 to change the target of target spell or ability with a single target. So it's a redirect. Next up, we have Wartime Protesters, 3 and a red for a 4/4 human rebel ally. It has haste, and whenever another ally you control enters, you put a +1/+1 counter on that creature, and it gains haste till end of turn. Elemental Teachings is 4 and a green for an instant lesson. To search your library for up to 4 land cards with different names and reveal them. An opponent chooses 2 of them. Put the chosen cards into your graveyard and the rest onto the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle. After that, we have the Great Divide Guide, 1 and a green for a 2/3 human scout ally. Each land and ally you control has tap, add 1 mana of any color. It's just great fixing in a 5-color deck. Next up, we have Invasion Tactics, 4 and a green for an enchantment. When this enchantment enters, creatures you control get +2/+2 till end of turn, and whenever 1 or more allies you control deal combat damage to a player, draw a card. It's just, it's kind of what we want to do. Next up, we have Firelord Zuko. It is Mardu, so red, white, black for a 2/4 human noble ally. It has Firebending X, where X is Firelord Zuko's power. And whenever you cast a spell from exile and whenever a permanent you control enters from exile, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Next up, we have Katara Water Tribe's Hope, 2 white, blue for a 3/3 human warrior ally with vigilance. When she enters, you make a 1/1 white ally creature token. She has Waterbending X. Creatures you control have base power and toughness X till end of turn, where X can't be 0. Activate only during your turn. After that, we have Sokka, Lateral Strategist. It is 1 and 2 hybrid Azorius, so white-blue pips, for a 2/4 human warrior ally with vigilance. Whenever Sokka and at least 1 other creature attacks, draw a card. Next up, we have Sokka, Tenacious Tactician, which is 1 and Jeskai, so red, white, and blue, for a 3/3 human warrior ally with menace and prowess. Other allies you control have menace and prowess, and whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you make a 1/1 white ally creature token. After that, we have Suki, Kyoshi Warrior, which is 2 and then 2 hybrid Selesnya, so green-white, for a star 4 human warrior ally. Her power is equal to the number of creatures you control, and whenever she attacks, you create a 1/1 white ally creature token that's tapped and attacking. After that, we have the White Lotus Reinforcements, 1 green, white, for a 2/3 human soldier ally with vigilance, and other allies you control get +1/+1. Now, there are the cycle of lands that enter tapped unless you control a basic land. They each tap for a color. I have 4 of the 5 here. The only one I don't have is the one that makes spirits, which is the black one. So the white one is Abandoned Air Temple, land, enters tapped and lets you control a basic, taps for white, and for 3 and a white and tap it. You can put a counter on each creature you control. Angla Quella, I'm not sure I'm saying that right. But it's land, enters tapped and lets you control a basic land, taps for blue. You can pay 2 and a blue and tap it to draw and discard. Bossing Say, same thing, land, enters tapped and lets you control a basic, taps for green, and for 2 and a green you can tap it to Earthbend 2, activate only as a sorcery. Next up is the Fire Nation Palace. Land, enters tapped and lets you control a basic, taps for red, and for 1 and a red, target creature control gains firebending 4 till end of turn. I got 2 more lands I want to talk about, and then I will be wrapping this up. So first up we have the Jasmine Dragon Tea Shop. Land, taps for a colorless. You can tap it to add 1 mana of any color, spend this mana only to cast an ally spell or activate an ability of an ally source, and you can pay 5 and tap it to create a 1/1 white ally creature token. And finally we have Secret Tunnel. Secret Tunnel through the mountain. Anyway, Secret Tunnel is a cave. It can't be blocked. That's important for if you animate it. It taps for a colorless, and for 4 and tap, 2 target creature control that share a creature type can't be blocked this turn. So yeah, that's kind of it. I've got some of what I want to upgrade the deck. I still have to go through and pull the deck apart and decide the things I want to replace and change. I know there's things in there that have been in there since 2015 that are just not great anymore. But yeah, I think that's where I'm going to call it. And I will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening. All of my links can be found in my link tree in the description below. I would like to thank Ian Foss and Cody Mulvey of the band The Crypt for allowing me to use music for my opening and ending, along with Nate and Erica Jacobs for making my original logo. And I would also like to thank Christina McNichol for creating my new logo. And I'll see you next time.